Hello guys, welcome back to the new video. In this video, we will design our search screen and also we will implement the functionality of search images. So first thing we will design our screen. So for that, let's go to our search screen. Our search screen will quite similar with the home screen. So what we will do here, we will copy the code from the home screen and let's use this in our search screen. Let's also copy these parameters. And here instead of this image Vista top app bar, we will use search bar. So for now, first let's delete this and these images. For now, just provide the empty list and let's also provide this on image click. Next thing, we are not going to use floating action button in our screen. So now before this images vertical grid, let's use search bar. So this search bar comes with the material 3 library. So here first we need to keep iState for this query. So here let me create iState and let's use this state here. And on this on query change, we will update our query state with the whatever new text will come. So here we need to change it to where. This on search, let's leave it blank. And this active state, we just provide the false value because in our screen there will be no active and inactive state. And same with this, let's provide blank parenthesis and the content of this search bar will also be blank parenthesis because that content we will use as the image's vertical grid. We need to opt in this experimental annotation. And here next thing, let's use the placeholder with the text as the search. And next, let's use the trailing icon. So here we are using this leading icon and trailing icon. This leading icon will be displayed at the beginning of the search bar container and this trailing icon will be placed at the end of the search bar container. So here we are just simply using an icon of search, but for the trailing icon we are using this icon button and this icon button will be clickable. So here we are using this search screen in our nav graph. So we need to provide these parameters. Here we need to provide this snack bar event. So let's copy our home view model also and paste it in the search screen package. And let's rename it to search view model. And here we can delete this part. So let's use this snack bar event here. Next thing, this on back click, let's use this. And this on image click will be similar to the code we provided here. Now we can run our app. So now let's click on this search icon and here we have our search screen. So now next functionality we will provide is this. When we come to this search screen, then the keyboard should automatically open and the search field should be focused. So for this thing, So here first let's create a focus requester like this. Now we need to attach this focus requester with our component. So here we need the focus to this search bar. Now next thing, because we need the focus to this search field automatically whenever we comes to this screen, so here we can use the launched effect. So this launched effect will be trigger whenever this screen will be composed, and here we can keep a delay of 500 millisecond because this screen will take some time in composing, and after this 500 millisecond delay we can request the focus with our focus requester. Now again let's run our app. Now here we can see this keyboard has been automatically comes up. So let's type some keyword. So here it is working fine. Next thing, we need to give this functionality that whenever we press on this close icon in the search bar, if there is some text in the search bar, then first it should clear that text. If we don't have any text, then it should close this search screen and navigate us to the previous screen. So for that, here we have this trailing icon of close, and here we can use the if condition. If the query is not empty, then it will make the query to empty, else if it is empty, then it will call this on back click. And next thing, we will provide this functionality that whenever user press on this search icon in the keyboard, then this keyboard should hide and also the focus should be removed from that search bar. So here we have this on search parameter. First thing, we need to hide the keyboards, so that let's create the keyboard controller and also focus manager. So here in this on search, hide the keyboard first and then the focus manager and clear focus with this function. Now let's run our app again and see this change. So here we have our keyboard. So when we press this close icon, then it has first cleared that query, and this time if we press the close icon, then it will navigate us to the previous screen. Now next, let's press the search icon on the keyboard. So here it has hide the keyboard and also it has cleared the focus from that search bar. Next thing, we will show suggestion chips under the search bar. So whenever our search bar will be focused, then only we will show the chips. So here after this search bar, let's use animated visibility first, because these will be visible and invisible as per the state. So what will be this visible state? So here first let me create a state, and initially we will keep the false value. And how we are going to update this state? So here we have this search bar. Here we also have a modifier with the name on focus change. So here we will update our is suggestion chip visible state. This search bar is focused or not. So if it is focused, then we will provide the true value, otherwise false value. And let's also give some padding vertically. So here let's provide this state. So for suggestion chips, let's use lazy row. Items, we will provide the list. So here I have created a list. So let me first minimize this, and in this util package, let's create a new file with the name common util. And here I will just paste the keywords. You can also get these keywords from the GitHub repository. So let's use these keywords here in this items. So for every keyword we are going to use this suggestion chips. So this suggestion chips comes with the material 3 library. So here in this suggestion chips, we have this on click. Here again, whenever we click on this suggestion chips, we need to hide this keyboard and also remove the focus. And next thing we have this label. So label we will use the keyword. And colors we are going to use primary container for the container color, and for the label color this on primary container. And let's also provide some paddings. First thing, content padding. This will give padding all around the content. And with this specify, we are going to give some space between these chips. Now we can run our app again. So here we have our suggestion chips whenever our search bar is focused. Now if we click on any of these chips, it will just hide the keyboard and also clear the focus from that search bar. And we also need to update the search query here. So let's use this query to keyword. So whatever will be the keyword user has clicked, so our query will be updated with that keyword. So again, let's click on this search bar, and here we have our suggestion chips. Let's turn on the dark mode also to see how this is looking. So in the dark mode also these are looking perfectly good. We have designed our search screen. Now we will provide the search functionality. First let's minimize this, and let's also close these files. And next go to our data package, and here we have this remote package and Unsplash API service. First let's look the Unsplash API. To search the photos, we need to use this API endpoint. Let's create one more function. Next thing, we need to provide these parameters. So here we need to provide the query and the page and this per page. So these two are optional, but we will provide these two also. Here we have this annotation query. So first query is with the name of query, and next two will be page and per page. So the return of this function will be different from the other two. Let's scroll down, and here we have this return type. Let's copy it, and again right click on this and new Kotlin data class to object, and provide the JSON here, and this time let's name it to Unsplash images search result and generate. So it has now generated few more files. Let's go to this Unsplash images. First thing, we need to annotate this with serialization. So serialization library will deserialize that JSON to Kotlin objects. And here again we can use the serial name annotation. Let's define in the Kotlin way. And this results, let's also use serial name. So this results will be our images, and this will be of type Unsplash images TTO. This data file we already created in the earlier So now let's remove the unnecessary files. First thing, let's delete this result file. This is not, we are not using anywhere it, and also this links file, this user file, and these URL files also. It is showing the usage. So first let me delete this part, and then this profile image. Now let's see where we are using these URLs. So here this is duplicate. So let's first delete this file, delete anyway, and then rename it to URLs DTO. Now next let's close this and let's use this as the return type of that search images function. So this function will return us this data class, and here we will have this list of images. Here we will also get the total number of images and also the total number of pages. Next, let's have a brief on paging. Paging is a technique used to efficiently load and display large sets of data. Here we have an app that shows thousands of images from the server. Loading all of that data at once would be slow and use a lot of memory. Paging helps by loading only small chunks of data at a time as the user scrolls, making the app faster and efficient. Now let's see how this paging works. When you open the app, the first set of data is loaded and displayed. For example, the first 20 images from the server. As you scroll down, the app detects that you have reached at the end of the currently loaded data. It then requests the next set of data from the server. The next 20 images are loaded and then displayed. This process continues as you keep scrolling, loading more data in chunks rather than all at once. Android provides a powerful library called Paging 3, which simplifies the process of implementing paging. The key components of Paging 3 library are paging source, remote mediator. The purpose of paging source is used when you fetch data directly from a server and display it into the UI. For the data from the searched images, we will use this paging source. And next we have this remote mediator. This is used when you fetch data from the server, cache it in the local database, and then display it in the UI. For the data from the editorial feed images, we will use this remote mediator. First thing, let's go to our domain package, and here let's create a new function in this image repository interface. Here the return type, we are going to use this flow of paging data. So this paging data we can see coming from that Android paging library, and the paging data is of Unsplash images. Next we need to implement this function. So here in our repository we have this implementation, so let's override this function. Now first we need to create the paging source. So here in our data package, let's create a new package with the name paging, and here let's create a new file with the name search paging source, and let's extend it from that paging source, and we need to provide the key and value. So key will be of integer and then the value will be this unsplash image. First we need to make constructor, and here we need to override two functions, this get refresh key and this load function. This get refresh key we can simply use this return dot state dot anchor position. For our search paging source, this function will not be much useful, so that's why we are just simply providing this anchor key. So here this paging library will itself gets this refresh key, and this is the function we need to write. Here we need to define how this paging source library will load the data. First thing, let's use the try catch block. And in this exception, we can simply return the load result dot error with the specified error. Here we will provide two things to this search paging source. First will be this query and next this Unsplash API. First thing, let's get the response from that API. So here we are calling this search images function. First thing, we need to provide the query, and query we will provide through the constructor. And next thing, this page and then per page. So here we need to provide the page we need to get the data from. So here let's calculate the page which we need to load. So this current page we will provide through the parameters where we will use this search paging source. If this is null, then we are going to use the 1 as the starting page index. So here let's use the current page, and per page again we will provide through the parameters. Next, let's calculate does the end of pagination reached. If the response doesn't have any images, then we will use this pagination reached. And here let's use this load result dot page. Now the data will be these responses dot images, and we need to provide this previous key and the next key. So how this will go to the previous page and the next page. So here let's use the if block. If the current page is equal to starting page, then the previous page will be null. Otherwise, we will minus the 1 value from the current page. And next key, if end of pagination reached, then the next page will be null, else the current page plus 1. So these keys are quite simple. Here this is giving error because we need to provide the unsplash images. So again we need to convert these images with the help of that mapper function to domain list. So this is how our paging source will look like. Next thing, let's use this paging source in the implementation of our repository. So here let's use this return pager. This pager is also coming from that paging library, and here we need to define two things, config and then paging source factory. So this config, here we need to define the configuration of paging config. There are so many parameters, but we have one mandatory parameter is this page size. So here let's use the constant items per page, and these will be 10. We need 10 images per page, and let's use this page size. And next thing, we need to provide the paging source factory. Here we need to define where we have provided this paging source. So let's use our search paging source, and this search paging source needs the query and the Unsplash API. And this is giving error because we need to change this pager to the flow. So here we have simply flow operator. So this will convert our pager to flow. Next thing, let's go to our search view model, and here first let's create a state where we will keep our searched images. So here we have created the search images of type mutable state flow of paging data of Unsplash images, and initially we will keep the empty paging data, and then we will use this search images outside this view model. Next, let's create our search function. So here let's use this repository dot search images and query we will provide through this function, and here we will need to use this collect, and in this collect let's update our search images with it. And one more thing we need to use is this cached in operator, and this cached in operator we will use as the view model scope. This cached in operator will cache the paging data throughout that view model. So this will ensure that when configuration change like rotation, then the new activity will receive the existing data rather than fetching it from the scratch. And this is a must operator. If we don't use this cached in, then this will throw us the exception. Now next let's use our searched images in our screen. So here we will provide our searched images to this screen, and these will be of type lazy paging items of type unsplash images. And also we will trigger this on search function from here. We will provide the query. First let's use this on search function. So whenever we will click on this on search, so we need to trigger this on search function, and here let's provide the query as the search, and also copy this, and here whenever we will click on this suggestion chip, then again we will trigger that function on search. And next thing we need to use that searched images in our vertical grid. So here we need to change these simple list of unsplash images to that lazy paging items. Here this is giving error because we are providing these integer values. So here again we have these item block where we can provide these count. So this time we are going to provide the count as the images dot item count. And here we will get the index of each images, and with the help of that index we will get the image, and that image we can use in our image card. And now let's remove this item block like this. Now next thing, this image vertical grid we are also using in that home screen, but in that home screen we are providing that simple image. So here what we can do for now, we can just comment out this part. And in the last video when we will implement the paging to this home screen also, then we will provide that paging data of that editorial feed images to this home screen. For now let's just comment out and close this, and in our search screen now we can provide this searched images here. Now next thing, let's go to our nav graph, and here we are using this search screen, and here we need to provide few things like searched images. So that searched images we will get from the view model. Here we have this function collect as lazy paging item, and now we can pass this search images here, and we need to provide that on search function. Here we can call our search view model and then that search images function, and the query will be whatever we are getting from that screen. Now let's run our app again. Let's click on this search, and now let's type horse, and here we have our horses images. And when we scroll down, and here we can see where here we have so many images of those horses. Now I will explain how this all working with the logs. So let's first minimize few things. First thing, let's go to this constraint file, and here let me create constant for that log tag. Now next let's go to our search paging source and here use some logs. One more log let's use in our search screen. So here we are getting those searched images, so let's also use. Now let's run our app and see these logs. Let's also open the logcat and here copy this tag and use it here. This time let's search dog. Here we can see initially there are 0 counts. So let's press search icon and here we get the some logs. First thing we are getting this current page as the one because we are in the starting of that search result and the response we are getting of all those images. And now we can see here this is also showing end of pagination reached to false. And next thing these searched images count to 30. Now why it is searching the 30 items in the first search? Now let's go to our repository first. Here we have defined the function search images and in this function we have defined the paging configuration, but the paging size we have defined to the 10 value in our constant file, but it has been searched the 30 items. This is because let's go to this paging config by pressing Ctrl B and here when we scroll down and we can see some values. So first we need to look into this value initial load size. So this will be used whenever this paging library will get the data first time. So it will divide the page size into the default multiplier. So page size we have defined the 10 and the default multiplier is, let's press Ctrl B, 3. So that's why in the first go it is getting the 30 items. And this thing we can also customize in our repository. Let me open again. We have this paging config function and here we also have this initial load size and here we can define something like 20, then it will initially load the 20 items only, but the default behavior is also good. So next thing let's again open our app and again let's scroll down. So here we can see right now there are no other images. Now we can see it has loaded the other images also. So next we can see the current page is 2 because in this paging source we have defined that whenever we have not end the pagination then we need to add the one value in the current page. So here we will get these items and again this pagination has not been ended and this time we can see now we have 40 items of searched images. Why? Because initially it loaded the 30 images and this time we have defined the page size as the 10, so it has added the 10 more images. And one more parameter I want to discuss. Let's go to paging config and here we have these parameter with the name prefetch distance. So this prefetch distance here we need to define how far from the edge of the loaded content we need to trigger for the next page. So here the default value is this page size. It means initially it loaded the 30 items, and if we are on the 20th item, we are 10 items away from the page end, then we will call for the next page, and this also we can customize, but the default value is also good. So this is how it will go. Now let's scroll down, and when it will go to the 30th item, means 10 items away from the end, then it will call for the next page. And now this time we have 50 items. So this is how we will get all those images in the chunk, not all at once. This is the relevance of the paging library. Now one more thing I want to correct. Let me click on any of this image, then we will go to the full image screen. But now when we go back to the search screen, so here we can see our search query has been disappeared because that search query was limited to that search screen. So this thing we can also change. So for that we need to use that search query in our main activity. So that search query will live as long as that main activity is there. So let's close all this, and let's also minimize this and go to this search screen. Here that search query, and on search query change we will provide through these parameter, and let's attach these, and we can delete this from here. Like this. Now next thing, we are using this search screen in our, first let me copy these two parameters in the nav graph. So here we will provide through the main activity, and let's also attach these two things here, and go to our main activity and scroll down, and here let's create our search query, and here we will use this remember savable. This needs to be where, like this. Now let's run it again. Let's open our search screen, and this time let's search cat, and also let's try to search from those chips, like this treble. It has not searched those images. Let me see the code. Here we don't need to call the search query, rather these keyword, whatever keyword user has clicked. And this time let's use this animals, and here we have animals images, and let's open this image, and here we have in our new screen. So let's go back to the previous screen, and we can see we have animal as the search keyword in our search bar. We can see our search screen is working perfectly fine. Now in the next video we will provide the functionality of saving the favorite images to our favorite screen. If you found these videos helpful, like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.